Brad Greenhill is the chef and owner for Takoi Detroit. How is the restaurant doing right now? Because you guys aren't back open for indoor dining despite being allowed to do so, right?
Yeah, we're doing okay, kind of treading water, if you will. We just do uh, carry out and take out and delivery. And then we also, we're doing a pop up in Ann Arbor next week. And we also do like a monthly meal subscription kit that, we have probably about 160 subscribers to. So it takes like some bandwidth. So we had all this stuff on the books. So we're like, we didn't want to like overstress ourselves. So we're like, let's get the restaurant clean and get these out of the way. And then we'll open, at the end of the month. So.
So the pop up is kind of going back to your roots because you started out of a food truck.
Yes, I did pop-ups for years and was probably one of the first pop-up chefs in like Southeast Michigan, started back in like, I don't know, 2010, 2011 doing pop-ups, and then had a food truck. So yeah, and we did before we opened the Takoi in Detroit and Corktown, we had done a pop-up in Ann Arbor for 6 months at an old restaurant space there. So it's kind of, that's how they know us in that area, and so it's been, kind of fun to get back there. One thing with the pandemic, in Detroit, a lot of the restaurants are kind of destination, so we're getting people from Royal Oak and West Bloomfield and Birmingham and Ann Arbor that come in, to visit the city, and not as many people are visiting the city with the pandemic. So it gives us an opportunity to like meet that pent up demand by taking the food to people in their area.
You have such an amazing menu. How do you come up with some of your dishes?
Well, some of it is like a lot of it's based on sort of, I would say it's like 25% based on like traditional Thai dishes, that we put a little bit of our twist on, and then a lot of it is just sort of taking the spirit and ingredients of Thai food and making it, sort of, I would say like kind of more Midwestern, just because that's where we live. So, we play around with barbecue and like some of the stuff that was very common to Midwesterners, but we do it, through with like a Thai pantry and using some Thai techniques. So.
Well, if you ever need a taste tester when you're trying to come up with these new recipes and these new dishes, feel free to call me up. You don't even have to pay me.
Come on down. Right. Be careful what you ask for.
So when I saw you on the list to interview, I was like, you want to talk about someone that you really are a survivor because you guys started
Yes.
as the food truck, but then you open up. And then you have an arson, so you have to rebuild.
Yeah.
And now we have a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been definitely a crazy ride, and a couple people have interviewed me from like national publications before, and they're like, "Why didn't you just quit? I would have just quit." And I was like, "I don't, I don't know what else I would do." So yeah, it's just I have a lot of love for what I do and what our team does, and so it's stopping has never been an option. It's I guess being an engineer, I have like a problem solving brain, and so it's always getting put to the test.
But how did you get into cooking?
When I went to college at U of M, and when I was in college, I got interested and wanted to learn how to cook. And so I started as just doing it as a summer job when I was in college. And then I just kind of stuck with it, left it for a while, had a computer graphic design and web development company for a little bit, but then missed cooking, missed like being on my feet, and not sitting at a computer all day. And so I got back into it.
Wow, it really is fascinating to think, from computers to cooking. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is
Some people
fascinating.
like it, and they're like, "Oh, you went to engineering school," and I was like, "Well, if you think about it, it applies to it. There's and the way I sort of like put together dishes and stuff is not so much inspiration, but it's science based a little bit. You know, I think about how foods work together and how flavors work together and stuff like that. And it's very much there. Obviously, there's some creativity to it, but there's also there's a lot of science behind it. So.
So, and with that, what have you learned from the pandemic that you think is going to be for the best that maybe you'll carry into the future?
Um, I think, well, one is just being more like nimble and being able to pivot, and also the importance of like operating um, with a little bit less overhead and a smaller capacity. You know, I think we had, before the pandemic, we had, you know, two restaurants talking about opening a third restaurant, and we had 80 plus employees, and you know now we're down to 12 employees in one restaurant. So and what that has allowed us to do is be kind of nimble, and we've sort of approached the whole pandemic, every time there's been, you know, a relaxation in the restrictions, or okay, you can open again, we've never tried to grow too much more. We've tried to be able to maintain and be sufficient and profitable as small as we can, so that we can sort of navigate, you know, we can pivot whenever we want, you know. And so if there's a shutdown, another shutdown, we're okay, we don't have to lay people off, you know. And then as things get better, we'll start to try and grow again, you know. So.
Yeah, because as we go forward and the restrictions are lifted and we get back to some type of normal,
Yeah.
will you ever feel comfortable expanding again? Because will it be like, oh, there could be another pandemic around the corner?
Right. I mean, I don't really like to operate that way, but it's definitely a thought, and it's definitely about how do we make the business work in different ways, you know. And I think we've been able to tap into certain things that we won't let go of. Like, we never did carry out and delivery before, you know, and then we will keep it going now, you know. We didn't consider things like doing subscriptions and meal kits, and these are avenues that I think people will still be interested in after the pandemic, you know. So.
I think the meal kits, I mean, really, that's fabulous. There are very few smaller restaurants that are
Yeah.
doing that. But I will say, like, those home chef meals taught my husband how to cook.
Yeah,
So,
and so during the first shutdown, when we were closed, I wrote a book for that 3 or 4 weeks. You know, it's not quite finished, but I was like, I compiled all our recipes and made them for home cooking. And what do I do with them? You know, when I have time, maybe I'll try and get it published. But so what we've been doing is releasing them, you know, 3 a month with these meal kits, and people can cook the dishes at home. And we haven't made it quite as from scratch as what we do at the restaurant, so we make it a little bit more accessible, so it doesn't take you 12 hours you know, to make dinner. Try and get it so that you can make these 3 dishes in like an hour or so, you know. So
with that, Brad Greenhill with us here on the Mega Cast. When you reopen at the end of the month, 25% capacity, is that going to be enough to help you sustain your operating budget?
well, it's obviously not ideal, but like I said, we're barely maintaining right now, so it can only help us, you know. Still think, I don't think our carry out, it'll fall off a little bit, but not a lot, because there's still a lot of people who won't even go out to dinner, you know, who are comfortable with the carry out model. But it will allow us to have people in the restaurant, and being 25% in February isn't that bad. And the way our restaurant is laid out, it's not actually less than what we were doing when we were 50%. Just because of the configuration of our restaurant, we have booths. And so at 25%, we only lose 1 table or 2 tables from what we had when we were doing 50%. So it's not great, you know, I'm not gonna lie, but you know, we keep rolling with it, and we'll make it work, and we'll see what happens. So.
So as you had mentioned, you are in Corktown, and Detroit is a destination for so many
Yeah,
people. And I feel like some of our local restaurants that are in the neighborhoods have been able to, survive a little bit easier than places such as yours
yeah,
because it is that neighborhood bar. And now Corktown is doing a great, that whole area is booming with the new residents and things.
right.
But um, how much support are you getting from the local community there?
I would say during the week, that's pretty much all, probably 90% of our support comes from locals, and we still get a lot of support from the suburbs on the weekend. I think people who are fans of the restaurants in Detroit and who visit them still try to support as much as they can. It's definitely not as much as during the summer, but it's what happens in the winter. People want to stay at home and nest a little bit, I guess. Yeah, we get a lot of support from the local community, the Corktown community. But it is different. Detroit has a ways to go before it is more neighborhood type spots. Those certainly exist, but not all the restaurants can maintain that way. So it's definitely highlighted some things in Detroit that need to sort of change and evolve to make businesses, the small businesses in the area, survive a little bit better in the event something like this happens in the future.
Have you been able to take advantage of some of the programs that have been out for the restaurant workers and the small restaurants such as yours as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been awarded several grants, which have been great. And the Free Press put together a couple cool little programs where we get paid to feed hospital workers and people in need. So there's been 2 rounds of that, which has been nice. Little shot in the arm. During this, it's been any way we can try and secure revenue and get creative. We sort of explored, and so it's been fun and interesting in that way. But it also gets a little tiring when it's like you're constantly having to pivot. Sometimes it's like, can we just stick to one thing for a little while.
It was like it was okay once, twice.
Yeah, just for a little while. Like so.
Well,
The light is at the end of the tunnel. I'm taking all my staff today. We're all getting vaccinated today. So,
yeah, because the city of Detroit has added restaurant workers to
yeah,
their list of essential workers, which really I think is going to help because I think about the city of Detroit and their budget and what this is going to mean for their bottom line. And so they
yeah.
need restaurants to reopen. They need the taxes. With that too, but tell us more about your pop-up. When is it going to be and where?
The pop up in Ann Arbor is February 10th and 11th. It's at Cirque Bar. It's carry out and delivery. It's already sold out, so if people want it, but we're going to do another one next month, and we will release information on that probably in a couple weeks. And we send out a link or we post a link, and people pre-order. But the Ann Arbor one sells out pretty quick. I think the last one sold out in about 6 hours. So,
That has to make you feel good at least.
no, it does. It's like the balance for like, oh, we only had 10 orders tonight. Okay, well at least we have this. So like I said, it's a lot of pivoting to like, what's gonna work this week.
So, Brad, I know that as you guys start to reopen at the end of the month, it's reservations. So, what's your website for people to be able to get more information, but also to look at your amazing menu?
You can just go to takoidetroit.com, and from there you can access all the different things that we're doing right now. So you can book reservations for when we open at the end of the month. You can order carry out from there. You can subscribe to one of our different monthly subscriptions. We have a wine of the month, cocktail of the month club, and then we have the cookbook experience, which is like a meal kit of three dishes. You get the recipes and everything, and it's delivered right to your door. So
How much do you think this is going to set back the restaurant scene in the city of Detroit? Because Detroit was getting so much love for the restaurant scene, not only locally, but nationally.
Oh yeah, everywhere. I mean, I think it set it back a little bit, but everywhere is set back. So it's not like we're falling behind because everyone else is getting ahead or something like that. Everyone is going through the same thing all across the country and to a certain degree all across the world. So everyone is in the same boat. And what I like to say is it just feels like we're on like an extended pause, So, but the thing is, during this time, it's allowed all the chefs to get creative in different kind of ways, and we're not putting food on plates, we're putting them in boxes and in kits, and I don't want to say it's been a great change, but new perspective on everything is always good, I think. So as long as we can get back to a little bit of normalcy here in the next year, I think it'll have been a good learning experience.
Have you ever thought about bringing back the food truck?
I still have it. It's in disrepair, but we've thought about making it part of incorporating it a little bit into the restaurant, and having it as like a walk up where people can get ice cream or like simple food. So we'll see. That's definitely. I won't step foot on it again, but the people romanticize food trucks, and the people who like stick with it and like kill it, I have so much respect for. It was just it wasn't the right thing for me.
Right. It's like you said, when it's simpler food.
Yeah, and from day one when I had that thing, I was trying to run a restaurant out of a truck. And it's like when you have the truck, you need to focus on one thing and not try and be a creative chef-driven restaurant operating out of a truck. So, yeah. So if we bring it back, it's going to be like you can walk up and you can get a soft serve. We have coconut milk ice cream. It's very popular, so we might do like a little soft serve version of that, or maybe and one food item. Not a 10-item menu from scratch.
See, Brett, that's the universe's way of telling you, don't be so fancy with your food.
No, for sure. And part of the thing that we've had a lot of fun with at the restaurant, myself and my cooks, is we've because it's a pandemic, we're like, whatever, we'll just make whatever we want. So if you had asked me 2 or 3 years ago if we'd ever like offer a burger at Takoi, I would have been like, no, but we did it. So we've had some fun, like just playing around with sort of simple classics and making sandwiches and nachos and other stuff like that like you would never normally expect at the restaurant. But during this time, I think people want a little bit of what's familiar and what's comfortable to them. So
You know what? It seemed like a few years ago, the pop-ups were all the rage,
yeah.
especially in Detroit. And I know we had some really good ones in Pontiac as well. Is that still happening? I mean,
Yeah, they're
outside of
actually the pop-up scene. It kind of was a little quiet for a while, but that's real big right now. There's 4 or 5, 6 different ones in Detroit, and then there's a lot also in Ann Arbor. So I think, and they're getting a lot of support just because there's a lot of unemployed cooks right now, so they're looking for something to do, and so let's try a pop-up. There's a lot of empty kitchen space right now, so there's places to be utilized. So yeah, multiple things are feeding into that coming back, and then people wanting to try new things because some new restaurants are opening, but it's obviously slowed down. I think we're not going to see the growth in restaurants like we were seeing.
Yeah, I
before the
think
pandemic.
was that one, there's been more than 3,000 restaurants that have closed in the state of Michigan throughout this pandemic.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think more will continue to close probably. especially it's hard. We have Takoi has an advantage because we've been around for 5 years, and we've built a name, and so it makes it a little easier for us to weather the storm. Whereas, our other restaurant had opened just 4 months before the pandemic started, and never even really got off the ground. So we decided just to focus on the one, and maybe sometime in the future we'll try and expand and grow again.
With that, just one last question here with you too. When it comes to employees, do you think it's going to be more of a challenge to get back some of the very talented people, because you're not a neighborhood dive bar?
Right, right,
Your employees need certain skills, or do
for
you think
sure.
there's so many people out of work that they're going to want to come back, or have some people left the industry altogether?
I mean, there's definitely been some people that have left the industry altogether. We're going to have challenges for sure. And the thing is, we were having challenges before the pandemic, and I think it's going to force the industry to look more at how restaurants treat employees, and how guests treat restaurant workers. To be honest, because the thing is, there's a people want good food, and they want preferably local and organic food, but then they want all of that cheap, and those three things can't work if you're also want to pay decent wages to your staff. So creating a more equitable like restaurant work environment has been like something I've been into for quite some time. So um, it's going pretty well right now, and we'll see. I think people will come back to the industry, because as long as there's love for food, and people wanting to learn to cook stuff, it's a great place, especially for young people in their 20s, 30s, to earn some money.
And people too, I think they just miss that energy of
Yeah,
going out to eat. So it's like you said, at least the pandemic maybe has highlighted some of the issues within the restaurant industry that can be fixed coming out of this. I will say one thing about the public. People are tired of cooking at home. They're
yes.
going to appreciate uh, people such as yourself, because your food is not just food. It really is something to be savored and to be enjoyed, because it is creativity.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if groups of restaurant owners or chefs, they get together and we talk about ways we can change it, and multiple restaurants buy into it, we have an opportunity right now to sort of switch some of the expectations, because people have been out of restaurants. People are more aware that restaurants are struggling. That we can sort of change some things. It'll take some getting used to, but that's what we've had to do for the last year. Guests and restaurant owners alike.
Well, Brad Greenhill with us here on the MegaCast. I know it's been a tough year, but we're hoping that things do get better.
They will. The light is at the end of the tunnel, I think.
Most definitely. Well, good luck, and good luck with the pop up, and we'll look for the reopening at the end of February.
Awesome. Thank you. Nice talking with you.